you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hey everybody, welcome to Nexus at Night, your weekly Vanguard podcast. I'm Atlas. Matt and Root Beer aren't here, but I don't know if this is better. Could be better.
It might be a little better, might be a little worse. You know, you could be getting something amazing here, and you could be getting something cringe. Depends on who you ask, you know?
Yeah, our guest today is Ty Sensei, a.k.a. Ty Smith.
Ty Smith. From Facebook is my last name, apparently.
Yeah, so Ty here just got top 8 at Worlds.
Indeed, yeah. The only Narukami in top 8. So, you know, I feel a little happy about that, being able to top with a deck that I actually, know and love. I was considering bringing Highlander for a little while, but, I didn't feel like learning Solitaire. So I decided, I was like, you know what? Erad did be pretty good last season. It has a good Highlander matchup, so walked in with that, topped, feel really good with my performance, so I'm really happy with how this weekend went out.
It's it must have been a crazy time. First I wanted to know, before going into the tournament, how did you prepare?
Well, I got a little bit of testing in. I wish I got more testing in, honestly, because there was one deck that I'll talk about that when we get to my matchups. There was one deck that I had a really poor matchup against that I just expected to not really be there. And it was there a lot. It took up 4 of the top 8 spots, actually.
Okay.
And so, but I did get to do some testing. What I really did to prepare myself was there's a little ritual I have where it's take a shower in the morning and listen to insert inspirational music here. When I top 2'd in Rosemont, it was Be a Man from Mulan. This time it was Bury the Light from Devil May Cry 5.
This is all over the place.
I know, no, it's my motivational ritual. It works every time, and I have a 100% topping record doing this.
So does the music change where the genre shifts, or do you have?
I just pick I just pick a motivational song of the week, buddy. Get myself in there. But what really prepared me was the advice I got from a lot of people in building the deck. A lot of my time went into my deck building. I aimed to beat specifically Highlander this format. I expected a lot of the people that I was playing to be on Highlander, and I was 90% correct. Again, there's the top 4 Steam Maiden that I did not anticipate. I expected Highlander to be in that spot, rather. But I did get a 100% win record against Highlander, and I was really good at the mirror. So it really was just a lot of testing. I just wish I tested more, honestly.
So with Highlander, what was it that you were expecting to see?
So with Highlander, here's the reason why Highlander's so good. They got the ride up, that's powerful. They got the ride down, that's powerful. They have a really strong stride turn, but what really pushes them over the edge are 2 cards that I'm sure we've all heard of, the Pearl Sisters. And those cards are the reason why they have such an advantage over most decks in terms of the output of damage they can supply. And so I needed a way to kill them on their own turn, and that's where Narukami comes in. They have Unruly Dragon, they have Impede, they have Bulwark, they have a lot of ways of killing stuff on the opponent's turn. And if I could get any one of those to go off and kill the Pearl Sisters, I'm set for the rest of the game. Their hand size may be big, but it's mostly cards with pretty low shield values. And so I just shred through their hand for no reason. It's for that reason that the deck I brought has a 100% win rate against Highlander, not counting Overtrigger. But I just didn't expect to see as much steam in it as I did, unfortunately. I thought that the piano ban would take away the deck's power ceiling, not its consistency ceiling. Unfortunately, I was just incorrect in that matter, and I completely forgot a few variables that we'll talk about when we get to top 8, but when we get to the matchup talk.
Okay. Was there anything you added in your deck building where you're like, this is for a specific matchup, this particular card?
It was Unruly Dragon. Yeah, I can tell you that. It was Unruly Dragon. Unruly Dragon is a promo from Old G era. I'm sure a lot of us know about it. But it's a card that basically says when it intercepts, you counterblast 1 card with Eradicator in the card name in order to snipe a rear guard that is not attacking or boosting. Therefore, it has the ability to intercept, guard 1 attack for a 5k shield, and then snipe the other column rather easily. If the opponent does not deal with it or they do not play around it, it's turn ending. And sometimes it's even turn ending if you're able to put a Dismal on the card. This deals with the Pearl Sisters. This deals with Restanders in the mirror match. This deals with any unit that might time leap later on in the Steam Maiden matchup. This deals with Assassin in the DI matchup. This deals with a lot of cards, and it's a very meta. It's a card that's very reliant on what the meta looks like. And it's for that reason I think Unruly was the card that when I slipped in and I was like, okay, these are for these matchups. The other cards in Eradicator are really kind of just there to be there. Like Cho-Oh is there because he's good. Zuitan is there because he supplies his soul. But the other two cards were the Esper Ideas, the grade 4 overdress card. That card can restand even if they have a rear guard in the front row. Decks like Highlander and Steam Maiden have G guards that will put units in the front row to prevent your Cho-Oh restand. And so these are the only cards that can actually restand without needing to meet any sort of condition.
So Asperdia was used just to get around that. That I guess trick they had against you.
Yeah, right? Yeah, because if they put a rear guard in the front row, then Cho-Oh is completely useless, right?
Yeah.
So I needed a restander that could deal with that. And so Esper Idea was, it was the next best pick. Like, this is a card that was really good in Ripple meta because Ripple often had a full front row, even if you sweep commanded them. This card was really good in the prior format, even when we had Stunverse, again, because Highlander and Steam Maiden were running around. I feel like people cutting this card was a big mistake. It's the only reason that your Steve turns have any pressure if you're against those kind of decks. Cho-Oh is still in there in case you don't run into those kind of decks. But he's usually discard fodder in those matchups.
I think this is one of those cards where if you are playing in premium, any sort of Dragon Empire deck, like this will probably come up at some point.
Yeah, no, it's a Murakumo staple if you'd believe that.
Yeah, I like for people who watch the Nexus at Night channel, I recently put out a deck profile where it was Eugene Kaguro. And while the list at the time didn't have this at 2 copies, I did put it in the like pinned comment below or like things you can do.
Yeah.
And I really think it's a solid card, especially because you can go like the stride that gives your field plus 10k and then restands with Oswald and then swings again.
Yeah, then you do it again. Esper Idea is an incredibly powerful card in this deck specifically because of a card like Exterminate adding so much power to your front row. This card will just swing for absolutely massive numbers.
Yeah. I know Rollick is a staple in pretty much every premium deck if you can fit it.
You need to be able to survive ride downs. You need to be able to survive ride ups. Basically, Rollock right now is there for the Spikes matchup mainly, but it does have applications during ride down turns where they have the Pearl Sisters on the ride down, basically if they high roll, or against the Steam Maiden matchup if they end up calling something off of a Time Leaper, for instance. This also, if they do ride up, this prevents any crazy shenanigans like, let's say, for example, and this is something that would never come up, but it's the most relevant example I can think of in my head because I have a small brain. If they armor break me on turn 3, this prevents me from instantly dying to armor break, for example, right?
That's really funny.
Yeah, anything with a ginormous number and ginormous critical before you're able to start striding, Rollock deals with it.
My luck with this card is I always get it after I've ridden up to grade 3, and it's like I think it's
still a 10k shield. It's still a 10k shield. Yeah, no, it's still a 10k shield.
I really think again this is one of those things where if you're switching to premium and like no matter what the clan is, it's probably going to be useful at some point.
I think everyone should at least have a play set in their collection somewhere.
Yeah, and I keep bringing this up just because I realize now with the Vita Premium series, which Ty has an episode on, the Link Joker one. And like after the Eugene thing that I just did, I think I want to start doing like how to turn like overdress bosses and premium. I'll figure that out.
Oh, yeah. No, you can, the easiest one to do is like Dark Irregulars because they can play every single Dark States boss in the game, right?
Yeah.
Like they can play Barrow. I know that some people are on Drajuled now in NLK. I know some people are... Yeah, no, because they play it as a one-of in case they get damage denied because Drajuled deletes the Vanguard down to 1 power without needing to use a counterblast.
Oh, that's smart. I was trying to do like Jeweled without NLK, but just that plus Forfax.
Yeah.
Nowhere, but
Yeah.
to be continued.
There are things you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rollock is a card that I feel like came up in almost every matchup that he was relevant, or every matchup that I wanted to see him. If you see him in your opener, it's not the end of the world. If you see him later in the game, it's also not the end of the world. Even if you draw him later in the game, like he's just sitting in your hand as a 10k shield, he is still a 10k shield. Often cards like Mighty Bolt would be in this space, but Mighty Bolt, A, there was no room, and B, later in the game, Mighty Bolt might as well just be a 10k shield anyway. And so in this deck, you're really not missing out by holding on to Rolux in the late game. Because cards like Nusku are cards that you would call out in the late game anyway. You only want to see this card in the first 3 turns of the game. Demolition Dragon is good at any time, though. Like, you can drop Demolition Dragon and let it any time you want it. It's fine.
Demolition Dragon is especially potent in the early game.
This card is literal, like, AIDS. It's like one of the most powerful cards in the entire game right now. It's so ungodly strong. In my stream game against Andrew Kondrick, he was playing W8ghs. I had access to 2 of these, and that's the reason I think I won, was just the pressure that I got from that turn. Because Ghise can't check defensive triggers because you don't get the power, dropping a Demolition and just Ooga Booga-ing him to death was kind of all I needed to just have enough hand size to survive into the late game and just win right there. The fact that it binds from drop zone also came up a lot, actually. It was used to fuel Bulwark. It was used to keep pieces out of drop zone in certain matchups. And it was also used in testing. It was used in the mirror match to go into Soul so that they couldn't activate Steve's effect to drag it to front row to damage deny. It's a very versatile card.
I'm guessing Nusku was used instead of Mighty Bolt because it's more versatile and you have more targets.
I have more targets. It's more versatile. Right now, I'm working on a new build to fit the Steam Maiden meta. This build was really good for what I was expecting for Highlander. I'm cutting the Unrulies, and I'm putting in 2 copies of Mighty Bolt and 1 copy of Cho-Oh. The Mighty Bolts are there because they search out G Guardians, which you need in order to survive the Steam Maiden matchup. But for this event, where I didn't think I needed the G Guards as desperately, and I didn't during my Swiss rounds, Nusku was just better because it grabbed me Spark Rays, it grabs me any of my grade 3s. In fact, actually, it's like Mighty Bolt if Mighty Bolt couldn't add Heal Guardians and instead added every single normal unit in your deck to your hand.
Yeah, you have, let's see. So not counting Nusku itself, you have 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 18, 22 targets.
22 targets out of my 49 card deck. That's pretty massive.
Actually, wait. 31 if you count this.
No, that does come up. That stand trigger does come up. So yeah, I have 31 targets out of my 49 cards.
So I'm guessing like putting Soul Countercharge pretty free.
I mean, the deck has soul issues. No, it doesn't because of this card, and also it lets you extend further with Exterminate. It lets you use Sweep Command's second effect sometimes, which can be game ending actually. I've called a Cho off of the second effect, and that actually just won me the game sometimes. I've been in matchups before where someone gave me 4 damage, and I've called back a Demolition Dragon, and that also won me the game. But in order to use that skill, you need an extra soul and an extra counterblast. Thankfully, this deck has the stand trigger that lets you have both of those. Basically, think about it. Your 1 stand trigger refunds all of Steve's second cost. Therefore, Steve is still a +1 rather than a +2. But the +1 you're getting is an extra front row circle and an extra thing called from drop zone. That's kind of massive.
And this is Excel 2, right? That you're
Obviously Excel 2, yeah. Okay. The only deck you want to go up Excel 1 in is Thavas, and that's because you have genuine deck out issues.
That'll do it. And then Sanctitude, like normal. The G Zone looks pretty straightforward. How do you feel about the Stunverse limit before going into this tournament?
I've literally only used, I'll tell you this right now. There was not a single time in the entire event where I went, damn, I wish I had a second Stunverse. It's literally never came up. If they wanted to really hit the clan, they should have banned VSR so that they could still Stunverse against Steam Maiden and have an actual check to that deck. But the Stunverse limit does not do anything other than hurt my Steam Maiden matchup. Literally, this card's limit does absolutely nothing. If they actually,
I guess.
Yeah, it also kills Vanquisher. Oh no, look what you've done. Literally, if they wanted to hit the deck, they had to ban VSR. The actual problem card is Exterminate, but Exterminate is a card that I think is pretty good for the clan to keep it into meta status rather than rogue status. I mean, I want Exterminate banned, but to do so would genuinely kill the clan's viability. So it's up to what Bushiroad wants at that point.
Right. I think a lot of people like Stunverse was this sort of lightning rod for people.
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you this right now: the ways to play around Stunverse are literally the exact same ways you play around Lock. The exact same way you play around Lock is how you play around Stunverse. Not even joking. Yeah, just be not even be aggressive. It's don't commit too hard. If you commit, plan for the fact that you're going to lose one card out of your hands. If I first stride stun versus you, my first stride does absolutely nothing, and then you kill me on the crackback 90% of the time. The exact same ways you play around Lock is how you play around Stunverse. You also have the fact that the only reason why Stunverse was broken was because VSR. Before VSR came out, Stunverse wasn't really doing too much. Stunverse is limited by 3 factors. The fact that the first one is awful, the fact that it doesn't give power to any of your field, and the fact that the amount of value you get out of it isn't as strong, and all it does is clear the board. VSR removes all of these limiters by giving you a giant field, restanding said field, and also making you do Stunverse again by binding another card from hand, field, and drop. Stunverse was limited by what it could actually do, and VSR just removed all of those limiters. And so I think if you actually wanted to hit this deck, you'd ban VSR.
That seems like a probably good way to look at it. And like,
yeah,
I think a lot of people were expecting as we were going into this tournament, they're like, Narukami's going to be the thing everyone's like looking for. It was topping all these other
good. Yeah, it's only good because Steam Maiden was meta. That's it. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, this deck would not be as good if people learned how to play Highlander, or if people learned how to play Steam Maiden and not be bad.
Or could afford Highlander.
Or could afford Highlander. That's also the thing. I think WCC has like 6 Highlander decks that they share around. So obviously they brought it to Worlds. I think the Worlds format was a good representation of what the format would actually look like, even if Stunverse was at 4.
There was also like people expecting. So a little history lesson for you people who are new to Premium.
Yeah.
The last 5 years, I want to say, there's been this weird pattern where Gold Paladin will be at least good, either the best deck in the format or like a good contender, and then Mega Colony shows up and gets the win. That's happened twice, on two separate occasions. So, having that fact in mind, Gold Paladin isn't terrible, and people like my friend Scott, Outer Orange, a couple other people were like, Mega Colony could just show up and steal it. Get in the top 8, and I don't know if the new Sweet Cocktail promo was enough to...
Oh, no, I'll tell you this right now. The only reason Mega Colony didn't top is because I know the guy that was playing it. I think he was the only good Mega player in the room. If you played Megas at World, I apologize. I didn't know you existed. I thought there was only one Mega Colony player. That's why I'm saying this. But if you did play Mega Colony, shoutouts to you. Peter Van Alen, shoutouts to this guy. He got stalled for time in round 1 by Chaos.
Yeah,
that'll
Mega
happen.
Colony v Link Joker always grinds like hard.
It wasn't even grind. It was just a stall. He got stalled for time bad. They went into damage. And I'll tell you this right now. He has, according to his testing, and I'm gonna take his word on this because I trust the guy. He has yet to lose to Narukami. He has yet to lose to Highlander, and his Steam Maiden matchups an auto win because Gretora shuts down Time Leap.
Now, is this Cradle? Is it?
It's Cradle. It's Cradle. I got to play a game against him after the tournament had happened. And I think his strategy was he was riding up on Gretora because right now ride down is so powerful that Gretora will always get a chance to actually resolve, which is kind of huge actually. Because cradling a board means that if the card leaves the field, that you get searches. So if they decide to rush you and you cradle their Pearl Sisters, for example, this means that they lose 2 attacks on the Pearl Sisters and have to bounce them off the Heltruda in order to get any kind of value out of them.
Yeah, and then you get your
searches and you get your goodies. Sweet Cocktail is enough to keep the deck relevant. Mainly because Sweet Cocktail is basically free. Soul Blast isn't a cost in this deck because you have cards such as the Critical Trigger and Malagantus. It gives +5 to your Vanguard if they don't retire a standing rear guard, meaning that they have to commit extra cards to board if they want to deal with it. So it takes out boosters at the very worst and entire front row attackers at the very best. And if neither of those go off, you get front 5k to your Vanguard, which is a constant defensive 5k. And you draw a card, by the way. So it's 10k shield in total, and you draw a card. That's kind of nuts. If they commit to board, by the way, you Gridora/Malegantis them. Therefore, there's no winning in that scenario. It really did just come down to Peter got unlucky. Mega Colony had a pretty solid chance at topping. Unfortunately, it just ran into the bad matchups.
Mega Colony is also a very unpopular clan. Even when it's good, it's always like this weird.
It has to be order. Yeah, it has to be order bugs powerful for it to be played by people for some reason.
Yeah. And then another deck that got this promo, giving it a huge rocket boost, is DI's the NLK Barrow Magnus with Covetous Succubus. Covetous Succubus was a card that it came off like a custom card. For those who don't know, on attack you put a rear guard into soul. She gets and countercharge, and then if you have 10 or more in soul, draw 2, put a card into soul. The other effect is, I think if you have 5 in soul plus 5k shield, if you have 10 in soul, 10k shield.
Yeah. That never comes up because you're never guarding with her, Lamau. You're killing her the turn you call. You're killing people the turn you call her. Mm-hmm. What this allows you to do is allows you to attack with Assassin 2 more times on a Protect 2, which is that's a 25k power swinger twice more. That's kind of insane. You also have the fact that this means that the countercharge NLK can now go off with 1 less damage. NLK now needs two counterblast for the full combo, and only 1 counterblast to it only needs 1 counterblast to do. Actually, no, I lied to you. It needs 1 counterblast to do half a combo. Said half combo is still an NLK swing, a Barrow swing into the new stride, whose name is avoiding me.
Forfax.
Forfax, thank you. It's NLK Barrow Forfax if you have her on board. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of nuts. Those promos did a lot for premium though, and I hope that we get more promos like them.
Me too.
I know people are like, oh, NLK is so boring. I have the deck. I built it actually. It's currently sitting in my it's sitting back there.
I have 2. It's over here.
Oh yeah. It's a really fun deck to pilot. It's just that building it is kind of a nightmare. I think I've solved the list. I got help from Notorious Set rather. Morgan helped me out. She has a pretty solid list. I think I made a few modifications that make this deck a little more powerful, even if it's less consistent. It doesn't matter because I'm a DI player and I'll always just draw the cards I need anyway, smiley face.
I think that's the reason you didn't really see a lot of that deck being brought, just because there's like a consistency problem.
There's a huge consistency. It's not a deck you want to bring to a tournament by any means, but it is pretty fun for jamming casual games or locals. Mm-hmm. I want to see more of these promos though. I really like what they do for the game.
Yeah, especially like a grade 2 that is good for the entire clan, and just
I was playing against a friend of mine, Ross. Ross, if you're watching, shout outs to you, buddy. Me and him played after the event. We were eating tacos in a nice taco place in LA. And we were playing against. He was playing Roroa Mega Colony. He was jamming Sweet Cocktail in that. It's just solid overall.
Mm-hmm. Were there any other like contenders that you think were going to show up that maybe didn't, or anything? I
was expecting the meta to be Steam Maiden, Highlander, DI, and I was correct on 2 of those. DI did not show up at all, as far as I'm concerned. Right. I know Granblue was coming in. I know my friend Sage was on Granblue. He unfortunately ran into all the Mega Colony players.
I know Commander Jaime was running Granblue and didn't work out so well for me.
I thought he was on Aquaforce.
Oh wait, no, never mind.
Yeah, I thought
Granblue is what he topped with. Thavas is what he brought.
He topped with Ripple and got, so he was on Aquaforce both times. Yeah, he won with Ripple and he played Aquaforce at this event. He found some really funny token Thavas build, which is you play some generic Roroa cards and it works. I mean, it's rest fodder for your pursuit assaults.
That is pretty funny. I run tokens in Great Nature.
Oh yeah, no.
because the girl blows herself up in end phase, so you
Yep.
draw off of that and then retire them with Ardillo and then draw off of that.
Yeah, no, I know you do that in I know a friend of mine does that in Big Belly. But another deck I expected to see more of, honestly, I don't know, man. I think everything that showed up was expected other than the Steam Maiden. I expected less Steam Maiden more than anything else. But we had 4 Steam Maiden in Top Cut. I think those were all the Steam Maiden players too. I think that I think Steam Maiden had a 100% representation rate. But I could be wrong on that. I don't know what every one of the event was playing.
I guess before we go into Steam Maiden and then your games to finish it off here, Spike Brothers seems to okay. So in Anaheim, it won, and then it managed to get a topping, a topping spot here. What do you think of Spike Brothers?
I think Spikes are an incredibly strong deck that just have a few really cringe matchups. Narukami is not one of them. Highlander is one of them. And I know that Mega Colony is also one of them.
Yeah.
It has a few, and that's why I think Mega Colony maybe is better into this upcoming format than a lot of people are giving it credit for. I really recommend, if you have the ability to buy Mega Colony, buy into it. It's a cheap, accessible, easy to play premium deck. The only expensive cards are the Gradoras that are running for 15, and even then, I mean, it's an eternal format. What were you expecting, to not spend money on cardboard? Those Gradoras will last you until the end of time. She's never getting banned, guys. She's never going away. Buy her now. I'm dead serious. I bought her when she was $2, and they've been lasting me since I got them on a release. You're making a pretty solid investment if you buy in a Mega Colony. But Spikes is a deck that I also own, and I also believe in the power of. I think that this is a overall pretty solid format. We have 2 decks that I'd call cringe, but only one of them I think needs hits. I'm fine with having to build around Highlander. I really am. I used to think that Highlander was busted, and I still think Q-Tire should be banned. But if she's not banned, I'm not going to lose sleep over it because I genuinely enjoy building for this format.
And then for Steam Maidens, the Piano Man got hit in advance of this tournament, and it turned out to not matter.
Doesn't matter at all, man.
Yeah, that's what most people are thinking. We're like, okay, good that you banned Piano Man. Turn wide guard restrict is bad.
Yep.
But it's not gonna do anything.
And Tirana needs to be banned. I actually think that the entire Steam Maiden archetype just needs to be deleted from existence. Because the issue with Steam Maiden is that it's hard to build around, first of all. But even if you do build around it, you now lose to Highlander. You cannot build around Steam Maiden and also build around Highlander. It's very hard to do that. The decks that beat Steam Maiden lose to Highlander, and the decks that lose to Highlander beat Steam Maiden, and I think that's a very unhealthy format. It's the reason why I thought Order Bugs and Team League were unhealthy, was because the decks that beat Order Colony lose to Nightmare Doll, and the decks that beat Nightmare Doll lose to Order Colony. And that's not good for a Team League. It's good for for a non-Team League regional. I think that Order Bugs format might have been a little more healthy if we weren't in Team League. But it's just kind of a cringe scenario for everyone involved. And the fact that Enterana is a genuinely, okay, I say broken a lot, but broken only means it's above everything else in the format. I genuinely think Enterana is broken. That is
for people wondering who Enterana is. It's Motorcycle.
Yeah, this card. Yeah, no, she is a +3 for Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Not in the play aroundable way. It has a really strong early game. It has an incredible late game, and you have to damage deny it or you die, essentially. And when you damage deny it, that implies that its early game, that its late game is probably weaker because it has a powerful early game. No, it just can do everything. Highlander can literally do everything, but has a higher ceiling and a higher floor, meaning it's harder to access and also bricks harder. But Steam Maiden never bricks.
Lower floor.
Much lower floor for Steam Maiden. Much lower floor for Steam Maiden. I think the overall format is great if you delete Steam Maiden from the format. Maybe if you fix the ride down rules, it'll be fine. I think if you fix the ride down rules, Steam Maiden might actually be genuinely an okay deck. All you have to do is make it say that you can also stride if your opponent ever rode 3 at once during the game.
I think we talked about this on a past episode, but
we probably did. Yeah,
Thailand is the one that.
Yep, Thailand has good stride rules.
That has these rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the last thing to cover here before your matchups, Highlander. What's the whole deal with that? What do you?
It's fine. That's fine. I mean, I think Q-Tire should still be banned. But like, I'm not gonna lose sleep if she isn't. I mean, the fact that I can build around Highlander means it's fine. I'm okay with this. The fact that my Narukami deck has a 100% win rate against it, fine. Mega Colony has a pretty good win rate against it, fine. Spikes nails it into the ground, fine. There's a lot of decks that could just steamroll Highlander. Grand Blue can hose it pretty well. I think that if a deck can be built around, it's genuinely healthy. I think that if you're required to build around it, there's a problem. Highlander does not feel like one of those decks. Even if I didn't build around Highlander, I think that my opponent's bricking genuinely just means that it's fine. Highlander is a deck that will ruin some kid's day at locals, but in terms of tournament representation, it'll simply be capped by the fact that it can brick really freaking hard. And it's the NLK problem. It's literally the NLK problem.
Yeah. So, if newer listeners to Nexus at Night, our general metric for a deck being too centralized is half or more of the top eights consistently, and we're kind of getting there. Yep. So
I will say I'll say this in advance. I could be completely wrong about Steam Maiden. I'm not going to give up on this format just yet because I mean, now that I've proven that I'm good at the game, I actually want to play it. So the fact that Steam Maiden is overrepresented, I think that people will start to cut down maybe on Highlander, and that means that I can build around Steam. I'll try and find ways to build around Steam Maiden. I think they do exist. It's just going to be harder with one Stunverse. Maybe the one Stunverse is all I really needed. It's entirely possible that all I have to do is Stunverse them on my first stride using VSR. Maybe I go back to VSR, use the one Stunverse, and then ride Steve in order to sweep command their front row. Maybe I just don't spam Stunverse. Maybe it's fine. Like, genuinely, I could be completely wrong here. These are my impressions going into it, though, and testing will show if I'm right or not. So in the event that I'm wrong, I will disclaim it now.
All right. Well, thanks for all the insight on this. And I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. We're going to go into Ty's matchups that he went through here. But first, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment. If you're listening on Spotify or whatever, leave a review. Helps the show out.
Help Atlas out. He's genuinely a great guy and deserves all the love he can get.
Let's do this. So,
all right.
What were your matchups?
We had 6 rounds of Swiss. I went X1 in Swiss, meaning that 5 of those wins were mine. So first round was against the mirror match. I ran into a fellow Narukami player, and he was on a build that was probably more geared to beat Steam Maiden. He was running VSRs and Phoenixes. He was running a lot of cards that were from the old shells and the old builds. Thankfully, my deck was teched to beat the mirror match. What won me the game it went as following. So he went first. He grade 2 gamed me, but then later told me that it was because he didn't have a 3 in hand. So he went first. I went then. I rode Nusku, looked at top 5, found a demolition, called it, swinging, got that. His turn came. He rode grade 2. He called a demo, swing. I guarded. My turn came, draw, ride Spark Rays, call a board, swing in. He guarded these to prevent me from drawing cards, which is the correct thing to do. That was the absolute correct thing on his part, because if I draw cards, then I'm immediately ahead on advantage. He tried to grade 2 game me. He wrote a grade 2. He called the back row demolition, swang in. I guarded it. It was now my turn. Now, he had no front row, no cards and damage. His hope was what I would swing at him and give him 1 damage, which is all he needed for the exterminate play. What ended up happening was I rode sweep command skill, drag the demolition to the front row, swing at the demolition, pass. Now you've got no counterblast, no field. What's your exterminate turn going to do? He strode exterminate, no power came over it, 1 defensive ended his turn. My turn came, I pushed him to 5, and his turn came, he tried exterminate again, called a board, impede ended it, and then my turn came on and I exterminated for game. The sweep command dragging the demolition to front row is genuinely what won me the game there. Thankfully, also I have pieces like Rollock to help in the early game, as well as Unruly to deal with potential restanders. Therefore, my deck was more geared for the mirror. As for round 2, it was against Andrew Kondrick. He was on W8ghs. This was my stream game, and I can't wait for the VOD to go up because I really want to study that game. I genuinely think that was my most impressive Vanguard performance of my life. I know, I mean it. I think that I was told by the people that were watching that I played that perfectly. There was no way I possibly misplayed. Everything I did was correct. and I'm really proud of how that game went down. So
I was missing like all of this. So during the worlds, I was running around either meeting people, okay, there was I don't know if you heard about this, but all the promos that you got, like in the welcome bag and by doing free fight and stuff, there was a stand outside that would buy them for $5 each. So people were running rackets where they're like doing free fight, get the promo, run outside, sell it for $5.
Wow, that's funny.
And that lasted until about 1 p.m. I made $35.
That's actually hilarious.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's what I was doing while that.
No worries. Yeah, well done. Yeah. Basically, as soon as he flipped over the Ghs starter, and rather, I did know he was playing this deck because he and I talked for a little bit Thursday evening, rather, because we went to go get lunch together, and then we went to Locals for a little bit. I knew about this deck beforehand, and he knew about my deck beforehand, so we both went into this game with no hidden information. Okay. What happened was he flipped a starter. I believe I was going first. My first move, obviously, is a ride up and pass. My second turn involved ride Spark Rays, grab a second demolition, call 2 demolitions, call a front row, ooga booga, smash them in the face. Your defensives don't work. And as soon as we got into the stride game, I had a 3-step plan for winning this matchup. Step 1, Stunverse. Did you know that Zeroth Dragons in the bind zone count for Stunverse?
I did not know that, no.
It's hilarious. 2 cards off the Stunverse from the first Stunverse because he had 1 card on field, 3 Zeroths in bind, up to 4 cards in bind zone. That's 8 bound cards. Draw 2 off the Stunverse, put 2 more cards in the bind zone. Now, why is this relevant? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. I also, every chance I got to use the demolition effect to go into Soul and bind one, I did. I made sure that his grade 1 count was low, so that if he had to ultimate stride into Gize, he would have to work for it. On that turn as well, though, he had I swang into him. He checked a defensive trigger. He now was on 4 Zeroths. I could have swung 1 more time. I chose to pass instead. Simple reason being, if that card was a trigger, the game was over. I was not winning then. I needed to hit him with Exterminate for my step 2 of my plan. So instead of swinging 1 more time, I simply passed. On my Exterminate turn, he added the Witch. That is a hand trap that says if she's placed in the Guardian Circle, retire 2 witches, take out a standing unit. Now, I had 2 options. I ride Steve. I can either take out both of the front row, but leave 2 witches on board and get hand trapped, or I can take out a column, take 2 witches off the board, and therefore have only 10k to my front row, but also not get hand trapped. I elected to do that. He had 5 Zeroths. I needed to push him to 5 this turn, and I did just that. Having 10k on your front row, did you know, is actually really good if your opponent can't check defensives?
That is pretty funny.
It matters.
I think that's what made Gize not so scary, because back when it first came out, people were like, "Oh my god, 30k body, it burns you 5 damage to death." I'm like, okay, but all the damages they take leading up to the 5 Zeroth bound don't give any power, so just start.
You can smash them in the face. They can't check defensives. His next turn, Gize hits the board. I'm taking 5 damage on my next turn, buddy. Here comes step 3 of the plan. Stride into Voltage. All those Stunverse binds, all those Demolition binds, all those Steve binds, all of that was building to this moment. Plus 36 to the front row. Got my restanders. Beat the crap out of them. Easy clap. That was my 3-step plan for beating Gize. And the fact I had to plan that far ahead, I'm really proud of myself for that performance. Round 3 was against Spike Brothers. It was the guy who made top 4. And I lost to him due to one simple mistake on my part. So I am absolutely okay with taking this loss. On his Nova turn, I checked a defensive OT. Now, what this means is his turn probably ends. Here's an issue, though. If he checks an overtrigger, I automatically lose the game here. There's no way I come back from that. He puts me to high damage, and on his galley turn, I'm done for. So out of fear, I used 2 Rolocks to guard the next 2 attacks. And then on his galley turn, if I had 20k more shield, I would have survived. Unfortunately, if I had just taken the risk, I would have won the game. But that's okay. We still made it to top 8 anyway. We never get punished.
Yeah.
Yep. Going into round 4. Round 4 was against Highlander. I was built to beat this deck. It was a pretty easy W as a result. He unfortunately did not get to see the cards he wanted to see. He did get a Q-Tire, but he did not have the Pearl Sisters. Round 5 was against another Highlander. And my opponent in round 5, God, I forgot your name, man. I'm so sorry. I think it was Gabriel. I think your name was Gabriel, buddy. Buddy, you were such a fun guy to play against. We were memeing and dreaming and laughing and have a good time. He did not CQ tire the entire game.
No, come on.
And he damage checked both Pearl sisters. It was really funny. Unfortunately, that is how that ended. Round 6 was against Steammated, and this is what I was kind of like, oh, this is bad. However, I'm just the best player in the game, and I damage checked an OT on his dust.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
That's always a good time.
I'm just the best player in the game, bro. What do you want from me?
So, what day? Like, was that putting you to 5 or 6 or?
That was putting me to 5. That was putting me to 5. Yeah, no, it was the dust damage, the one where when you use a skill, the opponent takes the damage.
Oh,
he hadn't even gotten to attack yet.
Oh my god! By that point, just swing with your Vanguard and end.
No, it was awful. I was like, oh, I love the OT. What a fun mechanic. Great. This is so cool. I was probably dead anyway, but like, I mean, whatever. I mean, I'll still take the X1 record considering like if I had not misplayed in round 3, I would have won. So like, it's whatever. Then comes the top 8 against Dave, the winner of the event.
Shout out to Dave who came to my my locals twice.
Oh no, Dave is a chill guy. Dave's a chill guy. I'm glad that me and him are pretty good buddies now. We had some nice conversation. Our game was really fun. I didn't really feel bad losing to the guy. Like I made top 8. He was a pretty good opponent. We had a good time anyway. I think I played that game perfectly. It just comes down to I have a poor matchup and he checked 3 defensives. It's a card game. I mean, shit happens, you know, not much I can really do about that. I've kind of just accepted, like, I mean, it's to be expected, I guess, 3 defenses, whatever, but also I had a poor matchup. I was not expecting to win this game. He was going first, so we also got the ride down. Like everything in that game just did not go my way. I played as best as I could. So it is what it is on that end. So we ended with a X1 record, ended in 5th place. And also ended with a W under our belt for the top 8 section, and unfortunately an L against our first match in top 8. It was a really good run, though. I think there was I'm really proud with what I did. Again, I'm a little upset that I misplayed with the Rolox, but in hindsight, I mean, hindsight is 20/20, right? Like you always realize the best things in retrospect. It felt right to make that play at the time, but it is what it is. You know, can't always play perfectly.
Yeah, of course. And then, okay, so the loss to Dave was in top 8.
Yeah, the loss to Dave was in top 8. Yeah, I lost in top 8. Gotcha. I did win one game in top 8, the deck check. I won the deck check. That was round 1. Winning the deck check is very important.
That is true. I think that happens for a lot of people, and this is a conspiracy theory for people who live in more humid climates. I think people like the games or the BCSs and events that are in more humid climates tend to have crazier top 8s because people fail deck check because the humidity warps your cards. Prove me wrong.
You know what? Do a study. I dare you to do a study. I want to do a study on this. Actually, this will be great. Next time regionals comes around, I'm just gonna ask. You should just like ask people who got disqualified for top 8. Hey, why'd you get disqualified? Was it warped cards? Like that's all. That literally just ask that. And if you get like I don't know a 60% representation in the yeses, I think you might be onto something, buddy.
Ooh,
yeah. Shout outs to I genuinely don't remember this guy's actual name. I really hope he comments his actual name down in the comments. I just referred to him as John from John Bushy Road. Like that's what I've been calling him all day. He was a Bushy Road staff member. He was a really cool guy. I just been calling him John Bushy Road because I'm like, guys, he's a Bushy staff. He knows everything. It's John Bushy Road. It's John Bushy Road. And so whenever he'd walk by, I'd be like, hi, John. And he'd be like, hi.
Oh, so you were calling him John to his face.
I was calling him John the whole event. I don't know his actual name.
Right. Is there anything else you want to say like about your experience before we wrap up here?
Oh yeah, no. I will say, this event, it was really nice to meet everybody. A lot of these people, I think that like I had misconceptions on their character, and maybe they had misconceptions of my character because we had never talked in real life before. But after speaking in real life with a lot of people like Crow, Peter, Philip from Top Deck Heroes, a lot of these, they're genuinely amazing people. Okay. if I ever hear anyone talk shit about this community, I will knock them out. Like, I'll punch them in the nose, okay? This is a genuinely fantastic community, despite the complete idiots on Vanguardians, despite the brain dead takes, okay? There's such a small minority of people. Because the people I met at Worlds and the people I've talked to at Regionals and the people who, like, took time out of their day to talk to me, like Sergio, the guy that went undefeated in Swiss for Standard, he's a really cool guy. He's one of Jaime's Metaphy students, and he and I had a fantastic talk at the dinner. It was a genuinely fantastic experience to meet everyone there. TIE Fighter, for example. Bro, me and TIE Fighter like never talked before this point. Now me and him are like, but we had a 3-hour-long conversation on like fast food joints in America and which ones are the best ones. We came to the conclusion that Culver's is king. And I will not accept any alternatives.
Hot take. Not wrong. I don't know. I'd have to think about it more.
Oh, Culver's is undefeatable, buddy. Cheese curd burger, mwah. The curd burger is god tier, buddy.
I gotta retry that.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Like for people who don't know, he's a hugger. Like I on the Nexus at Night Twitter was like, hey, if people are in town before the event, come to our local. And then I come in and he's like, Atlas, he stops the game he's in the middle of, gets up and like tackle hugs me from.
I didn't expect to see you there, bro. I didn't see your tweet. I didn't expect to see you there, man.
So wait, how did you know what was going on then?
Oh, we just walked over there. It was just coincidence. We genuinely just walked in. It was really close to where we were having. Yeah, it was really close to where we were having dinner. And we were just like, hey, there's a card shop. You guys want to go? And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll go. And we just walked over. Yeah, it's just a coincidence.
Really funny.
I know, it's crazy, right?
So, yeah, it was great meeting you. It was great meeting people like Commander Jaime and Outer Orange and different.
Oh my god, yeah.
Philip from Top Deck Heroes, who was gigantic. I have never felt more like a toddler.
He's huge, literally. No, we were like walking down a really sketchy street, and we're like, guys, we're not gonna get robbed. We have a Philip. Yeah. Like, we're fine. No one's gonna mess with us. We have a Philip.
I'm 6 foot. He's like 6 foot infinity. And,
the dude is so tall, he doesn't pass truck clearance. He doesn't pass car clearance. It's so funny.
And
he's a tall man.
Great meeting you, and I hope to go to another Worlds again sometime if they have.
You know what? I hope that I know people are like, oh, do it in Japan next year. I really want them to do it in LA again. Like, the fact I was able to afford going to regionals, going to Worlds again was like, the fact I could afford this is what made it special for me.
Yeah.
The fact I could really afford this is why I liked it so much. It really felt nice to go to this place. It really felt nice to meet all these people. I can't wait to test for regionals. I can't wait to test for Team League. And a lot of these people I bet are going to be, I think they're going to be pretty good testing partners and pretty good friends until I eventually, I guess, retire. I don't know how I feel about retiring from Vanguard right now, man. The game's in a really good spot right now. And even when it wasn't in a good spot, there's this weird thing with me where, like, I think the game's in an awful position, and then I actually play at an event, and I'm like, wow, this wasn't that bad. Yeah. I really think I just need to play at events more, you know? But I'm really looking forward to testing this format. I'm really looking forward to playing around. I'm really looking forward to just, like, seeing the Vanguard community again. And God, I love you guys so much, okay? I've given you way too much. I've given this community way too much crap. I couldn't ask for a better community. I really couldn't. I really couldn't ask for a better community.
He's apologizing.
No. Vanguardians is awful. Everyone else is fine though. No. Vanguardians can slob my knob. Okay, I don't want any of that. I hate them all. I'm just kidding. There's a few of Vanguardians I love. Dylan Swift, you're the first name that comes to mind. I love you, buddy. You're great.
Right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this week's episode of Nexus at Night. Matt and Root Beer will be back next week. Find us at Twitter or Instagram at Nexus at Night. Patreon.com/Nexus at Night, merch, playmats, all that good stuff. Where can they find you, Ty?
They can find me at youtube.com/Tysenseisama. I think that's how that works. But you can find me at Tysenseisama on YouTube or Tysenseisama on Twitter, where I post things that I draw because I apparently draw. And also talk to a lot of Vanguard creators and just kind of talk about things that I enjoy. I'm posting my Narukami deck profile on the YouTube. I'll be going over my matchup spread again and also going into specific card choices and also a possible build for the Steam Maiden meta once I get that solved. I think I have it. I just need a few more games.
Send it to me when it's done. I'll put it in the show notes.
You absolutely got it. I will send it to you when I record it this weekend. Alice, before we go, it's been fantastic talking to you, buddy. It was really nice to meet you, man.
Thanks, Ty. It was great meeting you too, and you give good hugs. You can find Matt on Twitter at Wiggums, 2Gs, 2Zs. You can find Root Beer at Plasma Eclipse. You can find me at Atlas Novak on Twitter, Instagram, or you can follow my other podcast at Generation Dan on Twitter, at Generation_Dan on Instagram. That's a comedy show. This coming week, we have somebody called Tilted Cone, and we're talking about times you've been in over your head on stuff. All that
bro, I need to actually like sit down and watch some of these episodes at some point. Like the one with Orange seemed like a good watch that I need to actually
sit down and watch. She's been on twice.
She's had 2 of them. Yeah. All right, bet. Where's my invite, Atlas?
I probably should. I want to do more like Vanguard community people on the comedy podcast because it's interesting to see them outside of their shell of like card games and into real life. And then Dino makes fun of them. Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. And until next time, I was Atlas.
I'm Ty, I suppose.
Have a good night.